I bet you are thrilled that 2020 has finally decided to wind on down. We're in November and we're about to close off the year. But what does that mean for you career-wise? Most times at the end of the year, companies would engage in what we call performance appraisals. And it's a wonderful time of year at work because you get to review how much progress you've made during the year and to look at the things that you've done excellently at, and also look at the areas that you need to improve. Now, if doing an annual appraisal is something that would sometimes have you feeling a little uneasy, like maybe you might be anxious going into it or angry coming out of it, like you should have said something else, or you should have added a different point, or you should have articulated exactly how you felt about an issue, or said something more about what you actually need, you're not alone. And that's why this episode will be all about careers and acing your annual review. If you're new to this channel, my name is Anisha Jones and I am the host of the 5 Years to 40 podcast. On this channel, we talk about health, we talk about careers, we talk about relationships, and we talk about our money. Today, we're going to get into 5 ways you can truly ace your annual appraisal. Okay, let's get right into it. The first thing I would suggest that you do is to keep track of all of your wins. As a matter of fact, keep track of all of the things that you've been doing. Now, 2020 has been curtailed, we could say, because at least for some gaps in the year, you may not have been working fully, if working at all. And so you may not have a whole lot to report on. But the things that you did remember doing in Grenada, where I'm from, I know that we would have shut down, the country would have basically shut down towards the end of March and open back around June. So for that 3-month period, you probably wouldn't have a whole lot to report on. But take the time to go back and think of what you did between January and March, and what you did from June to the remainder of the year, and make sure you have documented things that you would have been exceptional at, because there were a lot of opportunities to be exceptional even in the middle of the pandemic, right? So make sure you have those documented and you're able to recall them quickly when you are having that discussion with your supervisor or your boss or whoever it is that will be appraising you. And doing so will make the conversation a lot more meaningful, because you're not just grasping at straws, or you're not just saying, well, I should just get a good grade. You have actual facts, things that you could go to, particular events that you would have stepped up in, particular roles, things that you'd have done very well in. So take the time now to kind of prepare for your appraisal by going back. Maybe you can look at, if you have a diary or a planner where you note the things you do during the day, kind of skim through that. That will give you some indication of what was going on certain days, and you can prepare for your appraisal in a more meaningful way, because we want a meaningful conversation. You don't want to just jump in there and say, well, I should get this, I should get that, or whatnot, right? So yes, you're keeping track of your wins, and also keep track of your losses, things that you may have had struggles with. I mean, like I said, COVID-19 was a particularly struggling year, so make sure you take a note of those things so that you can perhaps use them as objectives for 2021 when you're going into your goal setting. And we'll talk about goal setting a little lower down in this episode, right? So that's number 1, keeping track of your wins. Number 2 is to be transparent about your losses, and be authentic about your journey. So I remember having a friend who would have had an appraisal, and going into it, she's like, I don't think this will be a very good appraisal, because this particular year, and this wasn't the COVID year, this was maybe a couple of years before that, she said, she had a lot of things going on. She had parents that were sick, and she had a baby that was young, and she was juggling a lot. She said she knew that she really wasn't giving her 100% as she would normally give, because she's a really dedicated and hard worker, and I know that for sure. And she said she didn't think she would have a good appraisal at all, because of these things that she know that she had to deal with. And isn't that the truth? Like, as a millennial, we have so much things going on. Our kids are growing up, our parents are growing older, we have our jobs, we have friends, we have other commitments and things that we want to really be pouring ourselves into, because we feel like this is the time to make your mark on the world. You know, at this age, you want to be making your mark on the world. So we have a lot going on, and it could be stressful. But what she did is that going into the appraisal, she told her supervisor up front, she knows that there were times that she may have dropped the ball a little bit or not did as much as she could have because she had these other constraints. And you know, her supervisor was like, look, we know your quality of work, we understand, and we saw that you were juggling and we saw that you were struggling, and it was admirable that you were able to do those things and still show up fully at work. Well, not fully, but still show up as much as you're doing. And because she was dedicated, she actually got a promotion coming out of that appraisal, where she thought, oh my gosh, it was, you know, this was just going to be a bad one. So I think be authentic as possible, because if you are in an environment where the person who's doing your appraisal is real, then they would understand, they would know your quality of work, and they would understand if you have something struggling with. And again, saying these things would help them to prepare for the coming period. The other thing is to ask for what you need, rolling right into it. So if there's things that you know that you have shortcomings on, or if there are things that the company needs to prepare better for you, or your organization needs to be helping you with, even if you are working in a very small company, ask for what you need. Because especially coming out of COVID, like most people would have been working from home. We don't know how long COVID is going to continue. So take the time right now to decide, you know, what can I ask for? Should I be asking for more flex time? Should I be asking for a chair to work from home with? What should I be doing to make sure that 2021 I'm better prepared and I could really hammer out the results that I want to, or whatever I may have lapsed in 2020, to make sure that I'm better? And even if you don't get it, ask for it and make sure it's documented, so that when something comes up, you can say, look, I really wanted to do better, but these were the constraints, and I said categorically that these were the things that were holding me up, and this is what I needed. So it's almost like, yes, you have a defense. You know, should something go wrong, and we're not preparing for negativity, but you have to be real. So make sure you ask for what you need. That's really important in your appraisal. Take some time off to do that, you know. And that's number 3. And number 4, I would say to be optimistic, because sometimes we get in there and we're all tense and we're nervous and we don't know, and you're prepared for war. And if you just have a conversation, because your supervisor, your boss is human as well, and again, even if you don't agree on everything, they should be able to understand some of what you're saying, and at least you'll be able to express yourself. So be as positive as possible going into the appraisal. Forget about the tension, forget about the person not going to see right. And even if they don't see a point of view, for your own peace of mind, be positive, okay? And the mindset is what changes everything. So even if the person you're talking to is not able to understand what you're saying, you might be able to persuade them in some way, because you're not going in ready for no battle. You're telling them you're coming in a positive and an uplifting way. So do that. And the 5th thing is to make sure that you set as clear as possible your goals for the next year. So 2021 is going to be tricky, baby, but we're going to be ready for it. So make sure that your goals that you're outlining in the discussion are goals that are, you know, smart, specific, and measurable. Make sure they're achievable. Make sure that they are realistic and they're time bound, so that when you come around to the appraisal next November in 2021, you're able to really ace all of those things, and not just ace, but just like super the things that you would have planned for. I'm really wishing you a beautiful annual appraisal. I know you're going to be doing well, and if you are a supervisor, these tips work for you as well. Help your people to prepare themselves. Maybe you can share this with them, and so that you all have a beautiful conversation, because your workplace should be a place that should not be a war zone. Even if it's things like things like this. You can avoid conflict in every place, but as far as possible, we can have conversations about things as far as possible, because some people are not interested in conversations. But as far as possible, let's use our intellect and let's use our empathy to have better work relationships. I hope this was helpful. If it was, be sure to share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel, and keep doing the most, guys. Have a good night. Bye.